You're listening to Catalyst for Change, and my name is Jessica Huckabee, your host. I started this podcast to learn what makes people resilient after challenging events and how they've used those series of events as a catalyst for change in their life. You'll hear stories of resiliency and strength, so get ready, sit back, and be prepared to be inspired. Today, my guest, Mike Iamele, will speak about his experience with boundaries and creating healthy boundaries with family, with his work life, and with other loved ones in his life. So Mike Iamele is a life purpose expert, a brand strategist, and with his proprietary sacred branding system, he's helped hundreds of people to connect the dots between their lived experiences, to identify which levers they naturally pull every time they've been successful, and how to build a business or a life around that successful lever pulling. Mike's also the author of Enough Already, Create Success on Your Own Terms. He shared his provocative and vulnerable take on life in dozens of magazines and podcasts, including a personal interview with NPR about his viral story on rethinking sexuality in his first same-sex relationship. Well, thanks, Mike, for coming on my show, Catalyst for Change Stories. You have a really interesting story, and I would love to hear about it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And yeah, this is a story. So I wasn't always so great at boundaries. And this was a few years ago now, I think 3 years ago. I was at the time making a lot of changes in my business. We weren't necessarily making as much money as we had 6 months before. I had two employees that, it was challenging to pay them still. And one of them really wasn't kind of showing up as much or doing as much work as she had before. So I was really feeling stressed. And of course, I was taking all the hits, right? The financial hit, the emotional hits. And then every year, my family goes to Aruba. And so it's a time that we meet up. And so all this was going on. I was having a lot of digestive issues because I was so stressed out about this. And
Yeah.
I was preparing for this trip to Aruba for the holidays. And just to give you a few of the characters, one of the people coming was my sister, who was going through kind of a hard time in her own life.
Mm.
And by the way, before this trip, my parents have a condo there, and it's a one bedroom, but it's fairly large. And there's a whole kind of extra wing where my husband and I usually stay instead of getting our own room because there's no door, but otherwise it's very distanced.
Yeah.
And so we said, like, okay, we'll go and not get our own place if nobody else is coming this year. So about 2 months before the trip, my mom sent out an email to the whole family, said, nobody's coming, right? I'd love to give our other place to my dad's cousins. Nobody else is coming. Everyone said, nope, nope, nope. Well, about 3 weeks before the trip, my sister was going through a hard time and said, I'm going to come and bring my two kids. And
Yeah.
so mom's like, okay, I can't get another place. So now we have a one bedroom, and there are now 7 people going to be in
Oh,
this one
gosh.
bedroom. Then the night before we're leaving, I've been desperate to get a haircut. My cousin is my hairdresser.
Yeah.
And so we had her over for her birthday in late November. She didn't bring her shares. We went to see her around Christmas Eve. She forgot her stuff. So finally I said, Crystal, you need to come to the city. You need to cut my hair. Like, I'm going to Aruba. I'm going to have horrible tan lines. Like, I've been trying for 2 weeks. Please give me this haircut. So knowing my cousin, I was not surprised by this, but my mom called me and said, guess what? Crystal just bought $1,000 tickets to Aruba and is showing up tomorrow with us. So there are
Oh,
now
goodness.
8 people in this one bedroom place.
Yeah.
And so then I get another phone call as I'm preparing the night before to pack. And my mom said, oh my God, both kids have double ear infections and they're miserable and they're just in a horrible place. And I was like, oh, this is a disaster.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I've got all these digestive issues. I'm feeling so sick at this point. And we get to the airport, and my husband and I live fairly close. We live in the city.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all jolly that morning at 6 a.m. Just had our breakfast. We're so happy. And I walk over to the gate, and my mom is white as a ghost, and my dad is out of breath. And I'm like, what could have happened at 6 o'clock in the morning to have caused all of this? Well, apparently, my uncle, my cousin's father, picked up my sister and the kids, backed up straight into her neighbor's car. At
Oh,
3:30 in the morning, this big car accident. And
yeah.
because he was so paranoid about not getting them there in time, he left and said, I'll go back before they even wake up and deal with it.
Yeah.
So my sister was very stressed, understandably, yelling, please go back. You have to write a note. You have to leave something. My cousin is yelling, we're never going to make our flight. Let's just get there. And they get in this huge, huge fight. So they get to the airport. And when they go through security, my sister forgot the medication for the ear infections in the car. So the
Oh,
plane was about to board and they didn't have the medication and they wouldn't have it in Aruba. So my dad sprinted back through security to the car. Luckily, they were on a flight an hour ahead, so he had an extra hour. Got the medication and was out of breath when I saw him. While my sister and her cousin are waiting in line for the plane and start getting in a huge fight about this car accident. So bad that my cousin calls my uncle from the plane, is crying and saying, I've got to get off this plane. I can't do this anymore. And the plane takes off. So
oh,
my cousin, of course, calls me, first person to call, and says, you've got to fix all of this. And I said, of course, right into savior mode.
yeah.
Relax, don't worry. The second I get to Aruba, I'm going to, give her a strawberry daiquiri. I'm going to have a talk about apologizing to her. I will handle the situation. The kids will get their medication. Everybody's fine.
Yeah.
So we get in the plane, and you're going to see a pattern here. We get on this plane, we get to Aruba, and of course, I had these conversations and I calmed everybody down. I got everybody in a good place, or so I thought.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, on the walk, I made my sister have a little beach walk with my cousin. On the walk, my cousin said, well, Michael has told me all the things you're going through, all these intimate details that you didn't
Oh,
want anyone
no.
to know, which is not true, by the
Yeah.
way. And so, of course, she's re-triggered about this something. So I didn't even know that this was going on. And so the two of them have their little tension. Well, the first night there, we all went out to a dinner. And at the dinner, the kids were being a little bit fussy. And my mom said, you know what, everyone, let's give my sister the night off. Why don't you all go out to some beach bar, just have a drink or so. And I don't drink, but my husband and they do. So have a drink and then, we'll meet back at the house. I said, perfect, perfect, perfect. So we go off to this beach bar. They're having the best time ever, having so much fun, but they're all getting a little bit drunk. And I was like, we said we'd be back at 9. It's now 11. I'm trying to wrangle the troops and say, let's just get back there.
Yeah.
So on the way back, they said, well, we're starving. Can we just get one thing to eat? I said, fine. We'll stop at this burger place, sit at the counter. We'll get a quick burger. You can get one drink and we'll just hit in the road. So we are sitting there and all of a sudden, my sister and they're all drunk, turns to my cousin and they start getting this huge fight. And now it's almost escalating to a fist fight. And I'm
Oh,
trying to calm the situation down. Nobody's in the right state of mind. Of course, I'm there, the sober one and the savior. I'm apologizing to the bartender. So this is so embarrassing. I've got to get everyone out of here. So I finally get them out to the road. They're walking down the street, stumbling. My cousin says, oh, watch out. Don't get hit by the car. She says, screw you. So they're all fighting.
yeah.
And I can't find a cab. And I'm like, what is going on? And so I asked one of the locals and they said that there was a huge car accident at an intersection and no cars can get by. So the cars are way far away for me to get a cab. And I think, oh my God, we're walking home and it's 4 miles away. I can't do this.
Yeah.
So, and I've got all these digestive issues. I am so sick at this point and beyond stressed. And so my sister, I all of a sudden turn around and my sister and my husband are getting in a random car. And I'm like, what is going on here? And they said, well, this local said they saw us at the bar and they want to drive us home. And so this is so shady, but you're already in the car. Fine. Whatever. I'll
Yeah.
just pay whatever it is. This person seems nice and legitimate. Unfortunately, she was. But as we're sitting in this car, my sister, for some reason, just starts going off on how Aruba has changed over the years and become very Americanized and commercialized. And I thought, oh gosh, this is so offensive to say in front of a local person. But she said, I agree. I totally agree. I'm your age. I've seen it all those years right alongside you. And she said, actually, my dad is the Minister of Tourism at Parliament. And I would love to have an official interview right now. And I was just saying,
Wow.
no, 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 no. She is blackout. No, this is not happening right now. So my sister, of course, says yes. So I
Yeah.
just thought, oh my gosh. So they, anyway, turn the camera on to her and
Oh,
she's just making nonsense. And I'm just thinking, this is so embarrassing and this is not being sent to Parliament. This just isn't happening. So I said, well, you know what? I would like to be interviewed, knowing that I could give a
good.
more coherent interview and she could jump into my interview and there you go. Right.
Yeah.
And so we actually have this official interview and she's like, do you want me, to take your email so Parliament can contact you? I said, no, absolutely not. Nothing. I want to be nothing involved in this situation. So we get home. We are not murdered, thank God. We
Yeah.
get back to our place. It's now past midnight. We said we would be back at 9. And by the way, we don't have cell phone coverage when we're in Aruba because a lot of places have Wi-Fi. We use our iPhones. Otherwise, we love to check out. So we haven't been in contact with my parents who have been watching the kids.
Yeah.
I open the door. I'm like, oh my God, you don't even know the night I had. And my mom is white as a ghost. And she said, you don't know the night that I've had. I was like, what is going on here? So apparently my nephew, who was 2 years old at the time, was uncontrollably vomiting all night. He had a stomach bug in addition to these double ear infections.
Oh.
So, and the daughter also had these ear infections and she's crying and screaming. My mom is covered in vomit. And I should probably give you a trigger warning here. Covered. My dad is now yelling at me. How did you let all this happen? It's like, all this fighting with my cousin and sister fighting. She's crying, calling my uncle in America. He's calling my mom in the other room and I'm answering the phone, telling me, should I book her a flight tomorrow? It's going to be another $1,000. Like, no, relax. Everybody relax. Wait until the morning. So I'm trying to handle this whole situation.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, my mom, she starts getting sick. Now she's got the stomach bug.
Oh, no.
And so she is sick now. My cousin refuses to get, because of course we're all bunking up at this point. My cousin refuses to get in bed with my sister. So she has to sleep in the bed with me and my husband, who is now passed out diagonal across our bed.
Oh
So
my
we
gosh.
can't even get into this bed. He's fully clothed. My cousin is, fully clothed, texting her boyfriend in America, crying. I'm trying to squeeze in between them. We can't shut off the lights because my sister is now all freaked out that she wants to check her son's breathing as he's vomiting all night. So the lights are on this whole place. I'm squeezed in and I'm just trying to sleep. So anyway, I wake up the next morning and what do you know? I've got the stomach bug. Me and my sister now have the stomach bug. So we are getting sick all day. I already was sick to begin with. I'm now even sicker. I'm vomiting. It was an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
And then it just gets so much grosser. It's a literal and figurative shit show, as you can see.
Yeah.
That day, that we were having a big barbecue out by a pool. I couldn't go. My sister couldn't go, but my whole family went there. Well, my mom was holding one of the kids and my dad, he wanted to be held by the dad. So they switched kids. All of a sudden, my family friend said, oh my God, Vicky, look, you have a little bit of poop on your leg. My mom looks down. She is covered. One of the kids, being so sick, has a blowout. Now my dad's holding the same child. The 4 of them are all covered.
Oh
now.
My gosh.
And they can't come back I'm not kidding you. I wish I was making this up. You can't come back to the house because me and my sister are getting sick in this house and they're trying to stay away from them. So it was just an absolute, I mean, there were more elements that happened in the story, but an absolute disaster. My cousin ended up leaving early. It was such a traumatic moment. That I got home from this experience. And on the plane ride home, I started reflecting. I said, you know what? My whole life, it's like I'm living a play. And I have been wanting desperately for everyone else to change their part. We're all doing the same thing. I mean, everything about this is predictable. My mom is trying to help everybody and convince my cousin to come. My cousin is being, totally last minute spoiled and shows up. My sister becomes a bad drunk. Like everything here is predictable. And Michael saves the day. Everything's predictable.
So you're the savior of the family.
I'm the savior. I'm the savior, right? We're talking about boundaries. I'm the savior. Yeah. So I get on that plane and I realize, oh my God, my whole life I've been living a play. Everyone's playing their part perfectly. And we always end up in the same scene. And my whole life, because I think my part is right, I've been praying that they change their part, praying and begging them to, and they won't. Yeah. And I realized the only thing I have authority over is changing my part. Because now we are in a fundamentally different play. Even if everyone else acts exactly the same, because I'm acting differently, we're in a fundamentally different play. So I got off that plane. The next morning, I woke up at 5:30 a.m. I was exhausted, but I woke up at 5:30 a.m. and I started working out. And then I meditated. And then I journaled. And then I did some tapping, EFT tapping. And I made my bed and picked up the whole house. I danced naked in front of the mirror before I got in the shower. I showered. I cooked myself a big breakfast. It took me 3.5 hours. And I haven't missed a day since then. For now almost 3 years. And I right away took all my calls, my messages. I hid them in a folder. So I had to go search for my text messages. I didn't get any push notifications. I changed my email to the same thing. And I decided I am only answering the calls when it's on my terms,
Yeah.
because I am slowly killing myself. And I started changing things at work. I unfortunately had to let somebody go. There was a whole bunch of situations that had to come from this, because I realized I'm always playing that part. I'm always the savior and sacrificing myself. And I hope to God that everybody listening doesn't have to go through such a literal and figurative shit show to
Yeah.
come to that realization, because there are so many of us that are in this place that, we think, well, I'm okay. I can handle it. Let me go help this person. Let me go deal with this. Or, you know what? I can take the hit. It's not that big of a deal. You need this more than me. And then we suddenly realize, oh my gosh, I'm in this disaster. And I can't even describe for you how much it's changed my life to have 3.5 hours from me every morning. I know it's
That's
not
good.
for everyone. Believe me, I don't have kids, so I get that, but it has been life changing.
Yeah, so waking up early and then having your routine of working out, meditation, journal, doing the tapping, turning off those push notifications and the
Yes.
emails and all those massive amounts of info that's coming at you in the mornings.
Mm-hmm.
And
Like,
what a story of family bound, learning how to deal with family in relation to setting boundaries with them. Oh my
mm-hmm.
gosh, you could tell there was definitely some boundaries that was needed in that situation. And
Mm-hmm.
wow. So what is your relationship like now with your family?
Well, better than ever, as you could probably imagine. There were
Yeah.
some rough times in there, or there's some times where people are like, wait a minute, you're not responding the way I expect you to, or you're not saving the day for me. And I think, thankfully, they saw everything that happened and knew, okay, some things need to change here.
Yeah.
And so that made it a little bit easier for me. But I really had to learn to, say, like, I'm not at the emotional capacity right now to take this phone call or to handle your, challenges. And maybe I can only do a really kind of trivial conversation, and I can't go into this for you right now. And really being honest about where I'm at emotionally. It's
Yeah.
really, I think that the myth that we all have is that if we are setting boundaries, it's only empowering to us and not to the other people. And that's just not true.
Yeah.
Healthy boundaries are empowering to everyone involved, because it begins to eliminate the codependency. It reminds people, hey, you're capable. You're brilliant too. You can do this. I'm here to support you, but you're back in the driver's seat of your life. And so
Yeah.
I think that empowerment is empowering for all. And that's something I've really had to learn the hard way.
Yeah, no, that's so important to remember is that you're, by you solving everything, you're taking that power away from somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have those good boundaries, they have to rise to that boundary and
Yes.
actually become more empowered by it. No, that is so true. So true. And it sounds like your family really stepped up and is empowered to solve some of those things that they needed to solve within their own relationships and dynamics. And things are going better than ever for you and your family. So, and it sounds
Yeah.
like you have a big, loving family.
Well, I do. And so, I only tell this story because I know that they wouldn't mind, and I can throw them under the
Yeah,
bus and laugh at them a little
good.
bit. But, like, we talk about everything, fortunately, in my family, and have this really loving family, and realizing that we've all got our patterns. Every
Yeah,
human being out there has their patterns, and these patterns intersect in sometimes not so empowering ways.
yeah,
And so to recognize that, because I think here's the thing, we all think in that play of life, our part is right, right? We all think we're doing the right thing. It's everybody else that's wrong. And even for me, I thought, well, being the savior, that's the right thing to play. Like, I'm the good one. I'm helping everybody,
yeah,
not realizing that I'm contributing to the same drama as everybody else. And of course, I think my part is right. And, it's really disempowering to others to think that I can help better than them, even when they're asking me to. And
yeah,
so it really has been so fundamentally shifting in my work, in my relationship with my husband, in every situation in my life, to realize, hey, wait a minute, like, I've got to focus on me first. And when
yeah,
I'm feeling so nourished and so good, then I want to give. And it's coming from a nourished place. It's not coming from a needing to save people place. It's not coming from a proving my worth type of place or obligation. It's really creating better relationships in my life.
yeah. And I'm really curious to hear how your family reacted and your friends and people around you and at work even. How did they react when you first put those boundaries into place? And what kind of things did they have to get over in order for this relationship to progress?
Yeah, well, I mean, it definitely, there was some adjustment period. And I think even via email, like, I'm not right on my email. I I don't even have a news feed actually on Facebook. So you don't see anything when I log into Facebook. I have to go into groups or check in on people. So I've had many cases where people are offended. I don't know that a family member has passed, or I don't
Oh,
know a big moment in their life has happened, because I think today we just assume it's on Facebook, so you should know this thing.
yeah.
And I don't know those things. And even, if I don't get back to somebody for half a day when they text me, it took time, and there were definitely some hurt emotions. And I thankfully am equipped with the best story ever to tell. So I think that gave me some wiggle room. But I was able to, what's great is my husband. Like if something big happens on Facebook, he'll tell me what happened. Or if no one can get a hold of me, they'll contact him. Or,
Yeah.
and if somebody is calling me repeatedly, I'm going to know something's up, obviously, and I'm going to answer that phone call. So there were definitely moments of, adjustment and having to really stand my ground. And I think in the past, when I had set boundaries, I didn't always stand my ground. You set them once and don't realize you have to set them over and over again before they stick, because you have pulled the rug out from people. They're used to one interaction with you, and all of a sudden you're acting differently. And for some people, it's not going to be an easy adjustment. At least it wasn't for some people in my life. And so just really holding my ground, saying, no, this is important to me. I don't take a phone call before 10 a.m. I don't check my email before 10 a.m. These are things that are really important to me, because I've seen the bad side of it. I know I've been sick a number of times in my life. I have a very, sensitive, I have autoimmune disease. I know that I will get sick if I don't actually take care of myself. And so this is my health that's on the line.
Yeah. And that's important to keep in mind, that your health is really important to your family as well. So when you think
Yes.
about your boundaries, you're actually helping them as well. Now, you mentioned something interesting to me. So I know that what you were saying is true, because people assume we know everything based on it's on Facebook, or I told so and
Mm-hmm.
so, or how do you not know because it didn't go around the family circle? I also have a huge family too, and they assume everybody knows everything, because but it's just such a huge family. So
Yeah.
now speaking of social media, are there any other tools that help you stay healthy on social media and or email or any kind of tech devices?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, like I said, I don't check my email until my morning routines are done, until I've eaten my breakfast and, relaxed, made my to-do list for the day. Like I realized that I was getting up, and first thing I was doing was grabbing my phone and checking my email. And so what I was essentially saying is, who needs me? Who can I help? How is your needs more important than mine? And I really needed to shift that. And so for me, it was setting this rule that I want to feel nourished before I invite the rest of the world's problems into my life. And similarly, that's why I stopped those push notifications on text, because I want to get to choose. You don't get to just invade my space. I want to choose when I'm going to, when I'm at a space where I can respond to people. And so I, took those, that news feed off, which I think today there's a news feed eradicator. There's like a plugin. At the time, there was nothing. So I had to manually, it took me months to manually unfollow every person and page and group.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that's a process. But
yeah.
another thing I do often, so on Facebook, I try to be very deliberate. I pop in, I check my groups, I check a few people, I pop out. Like it's really not the mindless scrolling, because that was producing a lot of anxiety in me. And I give myself, I'll check Facebook once or twice a day, and that's it. I don't need to check it more. I can
Yeah.
check email once or twice a day, and that's it. I don't need to check it all day. I can get back to somebody in a few days. That's fine.
Yeah.
I now on Instagram, I don't have Facebook on my phone, I should say. And on Instagram, whenever I'm going to post something or consciously check, I re-download it, do my business, and then delete it from my phone, so that I'm
Okay.
not tempted to do that kind of mindless scrolling and wasting my time on it like I used to.
Ah, so you download things that you want to read later. That's smart. I really like that idea. Okay, wonderful. Well, these are some great tools, and I think I'm going to initiate some of these in my own life after talking to you. So I really appreciate it. Now, what are you doing now for, like, as far as your work or paying it forward, like telling others about the good luck that or the hard work that you've done to establish these boundaries?
Sure, sure. So, what I do for work, before this, but has certainly been informed by it, is I help people to map their lived experiences, kind of go through the whole lived experience and understand which levers they naturally pull every time they're successful. So we as people, if we've ever had a successful friendship or relationship, we've been successful in school, we've had a successful job, we've been successful in a project, there's something that's unique to us that we do when we're successful. For example, when I'm successful, every time I'm vulnerable, every time that I'm playful and zany and silly, these are markers of success. Every moment of
Mm,
success in my life has had them, and every moment of trauma in my life has had the opposite of them. And beginning
okay.
to understand those sensitivities that I hold actually gives me a lot of empowerment for why I feel the way I do, why this is or isn't working, and how I can put myself in a little bit better position. And so I'll
Okay.
tell you, because for many of us, you might think, oh my gosh, you work out every day. Like, I've been trying to get a workout routine and it just isn't sticking. That was me my whole life.
Yeah.
And so I said, all right, Mike, be smart about this. You do this work. If I'm going to create a morning routine, it has to make me feel those sensitivities. Now, one of my sensitivities is aligned. Another is vulnerable. Another is free. Right away, I know P90X, or those fast-paced exercise, not for me. My
Okay.
nervous system can't handle that. The yelling and the fast pace, not at all. Instead, I need to feel free and really go slow and
Mm,
feel and things that are free. So not going to the gym, things I can do anywhere in the world. So things like calisthenics, floor exercises, wall exercises,
mm,
things that vulnerable. I immediately think of the gut. Now I'm thinking, okay, and aligned. I want to align my body and my gut. I want to do planks. I
yeah.
want to do exercises against the wall. I want to do push-ups. And I started developing, and I also want to align with my emotions. So I'm going to, after every exercise, pause, see what I feel in my body, let my body feel the whole thing, and then move on to the next exercise.
Go ahead. I like that feeling in your body. What's
Mm-hmm.
how you're feeling and what you move on to next. I like
Oh,
that.
well, I will tell you that my husband, he's just likes to go for a run and zone out. He's like, I don't understand the way that you exercise, but for you, you're like on the verge of tears every morning. I mean, you feel all the overwhelm. And I was right. This is a moment for me to connect with my body. It's about realigning with myself. If it's just mindless exercise, it will never last, because that's not how my sensitivities run. When I
Mm,
know my sensitivities, I know what works for me. And then I follow it up with journaling, which aligns me and helps me be vulnerable even deeper, and free thought, right? And then
yeah.
I move into meditation. And so all these, and then, dancing naked in front of the mirror. I know it's a weird one I brought up. That started because I didn't feel sexy or confident in my body.
Mm,
And I thought, well, all right, Mike, you do this work. What would be vulnerable and zany and free related to your body? Well, duh, dancing naked in front of the mirror. And so every day for a year, but while the water was heating up for 2 minutes, I danced naked and looked at my body every day. I did not miss a day. Even on days that I felt, unattractive or I felt uncomfortable, I still did it.
yeah.
And I didn't even realize the shift that was happening. But at the end of that year, didn't even make the connection this was related. I booked my first boudoir photo session. I've since
Good.
had multiple. And I got these photos back. And I thought, oh my God, this is so private. I feel vulnerable. This is just for me. This is my husband. The second I got those photos back, oh my God, my mom has seen them. I've posted them on the internet. I don't care who looks at these photos,
Yeah.
because I feel so sexy and confident. And I can tell you that there's not a room I walk into now where I don't feel like one of the sexiest, most confident people, because I know those sensitivities and I built that into my routine. And I think when we're talking about boundaries, we can't separate that from a conversation about sensitivities. We
Yeah.
are sensitive to certain things, and those are places we're going to want to hold our boundaries. We're going to want to create safe containers so that we can feel like us all the time. And so for me, there's this real intertwine between knowing who we are, knowing where we end and others begin, and boundaries.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So looking at yourself and dancing and finding joy in your body every single day led you to have that confidence to share to do the boudoir pictures and to
Mm-hmm.
share them with the world and not be self-conscious or worried about how you may be portrayed. I love that. That is so empowering. So you're helping other people find their sensitivities now. Are you doing
Mm-hmm.
that on a virtual platform
I
these
do.
days?
So I do. Yeah. So, I've been doing this for a number of years now, 7 or so years. And I do very infrequently work one-on-one with people. So to work with me one-on-one is about 2.5 hours. I don't do that much anymore. but people use it for a variety of things. They'll use it, I have comedians who've been trying to get, Netflix specials. We've had people starting new businesses, people working on intimacy issues, people going through transitions and gender, people, there's a whole bunch of things that people will use it for. And so we do a little bit, I do sometimes one-on-one, but what the bigger thing is I have a online course, which is how most people have gone through my work.
Oh, wonderful. And I will have all of that in the show notes so people know how to get in touch with you, either for one-on-one or to enjoy that online course and really get something out of that.
Well, actually, while you say that, I'll do you one better because we have this free training. So it's actually totally free, 36-minute training with a worksheet to begin mapping your sensitivities. So if anyone listening is like, oh, that would be cool, I really want to know those patterns or the levers I pull in my life and what those sensitivities are, you can actually begin mapping it for free right at mikeiamele.com/map, M-A-P.
Oh, good. I'm actually going to check that out for myself.
Check it out.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Well, we covered a lot of ground. So you're just an amazing human being. And thanks for what you're doing to help us figure out how to realign with our own selves and find those sensitivities. Is there anything that we may not have touched upon that you want to make sure to mention?
Yeah, the only thing I love to share is that you never have to try to be yourself. If you're trying, it means you're being somebody else. And I love saying that because I think that I want all of us to get to live a life that feels effortless and feels like we're just hanging out having coffee with a best friend, right? We have those moments where we're just genius flows out of us and time flies by and we just feel safe and right. And then we have those other moments where we're kind of like, ooh, did I say the right thing? Did I do the right thing? I feel awkward and technical. And whenever we're in those spaces, I always say, like, that's not who we are. Like, that's, if we're ever technical, we aren't tapped into who we truly are. And so for me, boundaries are really about creating safety to just be ourselves, to let ourselves shine, whether that's boundaries in job, boundaries with family, boundaries in relationship, any container we have in life, whether it's an exercise routine, the way we dress, a relationship, a friendship, those are all containers for our sensitivities or ourselves to show up. And so we want really good, safe containers that we can feel what we want to feel and also share our gifts with the world. And places where we don't feel like we have to try, because you never have to try to be yourself. If you're trying, it means you're being somebody else. So I want to live a life that just feels effortless and like me, and I can share my gifts with the world.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Mike. I really enjoyed speaking with you today. You've been listening to Catalyst for Change, and my name is Jessica Huckabee, your host. Join us next week for another story of resiliency. And please subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, and feel free to leave me a comment or email me at catalystforchange20@gmail.com, or on Facebook, we have a page at Catalyst for Change Resiliency.